What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Remedy Kitchen, where I got what you need. It's your boy Zoe coming at you again with another video. And as you can see, we're making gnocchi. Gnocchi is the epitome of quarantine food. Because look at the ingredients, y'all. Flour, eggs, potatoes. That is how you make gnocchi, okay? And we got some butter, some parm, and some sage for some flavor. Let's get into it. So take your potatoes, wash them, of course, and then put them into an oven and bake them until they're tender. 350 until they're tender. I can't give you a specific time, just until you can put a fork through them things. Like such. There you go. Alright, let them cool off for like 5 to 10 minutes. Y'all, these hoes was hot still, damn. Alright, so cut them in half and scoop them out basically. And we're going to start mashing them up. Any recipe for gnocchi is going to tell you that you need a potato ricer, any kind of food meal, you know, a potato rice or something like that to make it really fine. But for practicality reasons, we are just going to use our spoon and just mash it up as much as possible. We're not going to mix it up too much because that's how you make your potatoes goopy and glutinous and just, you know, nasty. We're just going to mash them up with our spoon until all the big chunks are done. Go on with a little bit of kosher salt because these potatoes are really bland, and then mix it up a little bit more. Then we're going to go on with 1 egg for this recipe. And mix that egg in just until the egg is incorporated because you don't want to overmix your potatoes in any instant whenever you're using potatoes, okay? And then go in with your flour. We're going to mix this in about 3 parts, okay? So mix that flour in until it's just incorporated because you don't want to overmix your dough, okay? That's 2 mixes right there, and this is our very final one right here. So mix that in, mix it good, mix it real good. Alright, so once your dough is mixed together with all the flour and stuff like that, you're gonna kind of touch it to see where you're at. If you see that your dough is a little bit too wet, like such, you're gonna probably add a little bit more flour. And you probably wanna add, for this recipe, about 1/4 to 1/2 cup more, because this is a little bit too sticky. So go on with about 1/4 to 1/2 cup more and mix that in real good. At this point, your dough is not going to be like bread dough to the point where it's, you know, completely quote unquote dry, but it should be to the point where it's able to be kneaded. And you're going to knead your dough until it comes together into a ball. And the good thing about gnocchi dough is that it's very forgiving, unlike other kind of pasta doughs, and you can really overwork those and make them very tough. But this dough is very, 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 very forgiving. So go ahead and let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes and then start chopping it up like such. Okay, I gotta be an actual professional pastry cutter, so I'm a little fancy or whatever, but you can definitely use, you know, a knife or a folder or any kind of sharp, thin edge like that, you know? So what we're gonna do now is start to roll up our dough into these little logs because we're gonna then cut them later. But let's go ahead and group our process and roll and separate all our logs real quick. And this comes the fun part because you get to get these little albino dookies a little trim, okay? Cut them into little duquettes. So get your pastry cutter or whatever kind of sharp, straight edge you got. I'm a little fancy, you know, I'm an actual chef or whatever. But go ahead and use your pastry cutter, whatever you got, and cut them into little pillows basically, okay? And we're gonna get started on the boiling and cooking process. Now I know my gnocchi don't look too fancy, but it's really about the flavor, okay? What I got right here is a pot of salted boiling water because we're going to make sure our gnocchi is seasoned along every single step of this process without doing too much, of course. So throw these in no more than 10 at a time, and we're going to cook these for about 30 seconds to a minute because that's how long it takes. We're cooking it basically until they float, and as they start to finish, definitely bite into them to taste the texture and check it. It should be very similar to a dumpling or a pierogi, you know? Kind of bready, light, pillowy, but not mushy, you know what I'm saying? So get these out of the water, put them to the side, and let's get started on our sage brown butter, baby. Always start butter in a cold pan, never in a hot pan, because you don't want to burn your butter off the rip. Start your butter in a cold pan, let it start to melt, and then throw you in some sage, and let that start to melt and come together. And this brown butter process takes about 3 minutes in total. It's going to be on like a medium-high heat. You cannot, I repeat, do not walk away from this. Don't look away. Don't check your phone. If your baby's crying, let that thing cry. If anything else is going on, let it happen because this butter is what's important right now, okay? So keep stirring, keep watching it. It's going to slowly start to brown, and you're going to slowly start to see those brown bits develop. After about 3 minutes, this is basically what our butter looks like. It's nice and fragrant and delicious, and it can go from this to burnt real quick if you take your eyes off this thing. So let's get started on our gnocchi. This process goes real quick, so let's get into it, okay? Go ahead and throw your gnocchi into the pan after your oil is nice and heated through. And really just don't bother it too much, okay? let it kind of sizzle and just fester. That's a nasty word, but let it sit there and kind of soak up that oil and just kind of start to brown and get those nice brown bits on the bottom. And what I'm doing now is basically turning them over, letting them really get coated in that oil. You can see the brown bits from the butter start to like do that little Maillard reaction and caramelization on the gnocchi itself. That's where all those brown bits are coming from. A little smell-o-vision for you. This is my favorite part of cooking, or sauteing at least. I love doing a little flick of the wrist trick. People be so amazed by this, but it's really just like, you know, it's just whatever. You know, it's not even that special. A little quality control right now. Check it to check the seasoning. Needs a little bit of salt. Going with a little bit of parsley for some flavor as well, and some freshness and some brightness. Ditch the sage because she's done her part. And for the Parmesan, you can most definitely use fresh grated Parmesan, but I think for practicality and, you know, quarantine reasons, this Parmesan in the tube is perfectly fine, you know? But I would watch how much Parmesan you put into this because you're adding salt as well, and Parmesan is naturally salty, so I think it's definitely a good idea to taste as you go to make sure you're not over seasoning your gnocchi. Now, me personally, I'm very tolerant when it comes to salt, so I made sure my gnocchi was well seasoned, as well as I went a little stupid with the Parmesan. I love Parmesan on my gnocchi, okay? But it doesn't actually have to be brown butter sauce. This is a very traditional way to make this dish, and look how beautiful it looks, y'all. But you can definitely make a vodka sauce. You can add some chicken, you can add some shrimp, you can add some sausage, you can make a tomato sauce. You know, this is up to you. That's the beauty in cooking, you know. My recipes and my videos are really just a guide for you to do whatever you want to do. And this is by no means healthy, by the way, so I wouldn't eat this very often, but it's delicious nonetheless. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you loved it, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to this channel, go ahead and subscribe. And y'all, thank you so much. Share the video. Love you all. Till next time.
Up in a big black Mack truck. Y'all niggas better get y'all racks up. Coming for these necks like Dracula. The way I flip throw niggas call me spatula. Best foot forward, never look a back at ya. Fresh prince, but I'm living like the bachelor. I ain't feasting and I won't fast with ya. Don't cross me, better not chance it, bro.